Hey, I'm going to talk about one of two things, either imagination or being human. Let's talk about imagination. So, maybe it'll be a blend of being human and imagination as well. So, how do I even start? First, I gotta this doesn't happen often, but I got to kind of phase the camera out in a way. So, I think what I'm gonna do is cover the screen portion. I can see a tiny thumbnail of myself. But now I don't know when it stops recording, which it might because the battery is unimpressive. Um, okay. Okay. Bear with me, this is a big one for me. Okay, where have I been? Where have I been my whole life? I have a, I don't want to get too personal, but I want to get deep, if that makes sense. I still have a tab up. I should probably X that off. I think I need to let the whole computer sleep to not be distracted. I guess the background is distracting, right? Okay, I don't know where the hell I've been most of my life, except I do have a running theory on where I've been my whole life, and I've been living inside objects. So my world was sustainable. You got to understand this. My world was sustainable within my toys, my projects, my cars. I didn't look at people a lot because, well, I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure out why. But I think it's because for a long period, I think it was um, disinterest. So I'm regressing now. I feel different now, but for a long time, I felt like humans are icky, and they are. But I kind of put that aside now, and I'm like, okay, let's get into some of this ick because this is freaking important. Um, I don't know how to stay focused today on this. I feel almost like a real life version of K-Pax. You ever watch the movie K-Pax, where a dude like witnesses a heinous crime? I think it was sexual related, I think, and he just like, I don't want to be part of this human body. So he starts to truly believe he's an alien, and throughout the whole movie, and I can't spoil it because you don't know if he is an alien or if he's deluding himself. I'm almost to that stage in life. I don't know if I was an alien, am an alien. I don't think I am. Even back when mom used to talk about me as a kid, it was kind of a joke, but I used to deny that I was ever a child. Okay? So it almost seems like now at this stage of my life, I was denying that I was ever a human. And that can cause issues. When you ignore something that's true for a really long time, it seems to cause issues. Obviously, right? So I'm I have to soon deal with these issues. Some of them aren't fully clear, but they are there, so they will gain clarity with their presence, I would imagine, such as any object or idea seems to do. This is going to be very me-centered. This is a me video, okay? There's pillars, as I call them. There are pillars of things that get me down, there are pillars of things that keep me up, and there are pillars of things I'm confused about, and there are pillars of, like, example, usually there's three of them. So I grew up very mechanically minded, so a lot of this, the ways that I think of things are very structural, and I'm learning, and I'm trying to adapt a little more of a just have an emotion and not try to build it into a structure. But since I'm still residual and I reside in that space, I'm going to continue to bring things up in such a way that is mechanical in nature. So the pillars I want to mention first are what I call the sick mixture, which is my processing power, my creativity, and maybe I throw passion in there. There's a sick mixture that like almost feeds itself, like one of those loops I mentioned. Not in this video, but there are loops you can get into with the mind that are dangerous. And you have to find a wastegate, as I call it. And I always feel devalidated. If I do research about something, I then feel devalidated as if like, because I love my own ideas, and most of the feelings I've had first. And then I found an example, a person talking about it, a validation from the outside that's like, that is how I feel. And I feel embarrassed for some reason to take a concept to somebody thinking that they thought I'd just seen it online and adopted it. There might be some cases where I've done that. But most 90% of the time, I'm already feeling it, I'm confused about it, and then I go validate it. There are lots of times where I feel like I know that I'm not going to make it. I know that I'm not going to make it. Like, and then I decide almost always to either just take it, just be hurt, try to get some isolation and just take it, which I also still think works sometimes. And there's other times where I'm like, I'm just not going to make it, but I still fight a little bit because footnote, shelf that idea until after this. The idea of putting up a good fight. So the other flip side I've been having a lot is knowing I'm going to be okay. And I use the word knowing purposely, knowing on both sides of this equation, because that's how it feels, is that you know something. I know. I look back and I'm like, I'm just going through something I'm supposed to go through. And I feel like I know, like beyond doubts, almost stronger than the pit one. That I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going to be okay. And like everybody's going to be okay. But these are both just feelings. And I scope out, I zoom out, and I look, and I'm like, I'm just a human having feelings. So then I almost devalidate the whole realm. There's days where I'm like, if I could just turn off my imagination or my creativity, because I'm dangerously creative, I think that I'd be just better off. But what is better off? What the hell is better off? More often than that, I think, no, this is part of me, and this is one of the most important parts of me. So I think I have to take the good with the bad, and that's kind of where I'm still sitting. Now, this is going to sound really stupid, and I want to be really stupid. This is just me, not necessarily even being vulnerable. This is me just flowing out. So what sounds really stupid is that I go out in public, especially when I go to Walmart, and I just see, not necessarily tweakers, but I do probably see some tweakers. It's not that I gave up on them, but I need to always constantly remind myself that like my energy isn't I can't spend all my energy on everybody. I have people picked out that I think are worth it. My problem is I see strangers and I'm constantly trying to put them in a box like, is that a friend? Is that opposition? Is that a lover? Is that a confidant? Is that somebody who would just use me? Is that somebody who wouldn't even look at me twice? And if I could tunnel vision that, there's times when I can. There's times when I'm in a mood where I'm out in public and I could just pass by. It's just scenery. And then, but something's lost in that. Um, Something is lost in that. So reinforcing the point that if I could just take a medication or be different and just go and yeah, I could probably pay bills better. I could probably, there's a lot of things I could do smoother and quicker. But is that better? Also, why are we always looking for what's better? I've been so like sheltered or like self-restricting my whole life that I'm getting to a point where I'm like, better isn't always better. Sometimes things have to get worse because you need that balance, that wave. And it's one of the hardest truths I'm coming to. Because I think there is still a strain in the back of my head that says, that believes that it can all be good. But I know it can't all be good all the time. That's just not how this game works. I just get exhausted because of how high the highs are and how low the lows are. So the contrast is really high. But let me go back and finish that point I said. I said shelf the point about trying hard and failing. That's one of my biggest central nuclear conclusions is when I'm thinking about all this crap and all these little transactions. I come into a center where I'm like, my only responsibility is to try. Like, if you try and you fail, you still did perfectly fine. Like, in an anime or something or any show, there's like an epic battle and they're unmatched. They're outmatched. Is that the right word? They're outmatched in a battle, but they watch them and they talk about them like he's never gonna win. And he doesn't. Think about how that's still admirable. Like he was up against that huge thing or whatever. And he might have even known. It's even more admirable isn't it even more admirable if the fighter feels like they know that they're outmatched and they're gonna lose, but then they still put up like 2 episodes worth of fight. So we need to be in our 2 episodes of fight, And I keep having these blissful. A lot of times it's at work when I'm in solitude. I have these blissful like. I heard somebody say this once that like, light already won the fight against darkness. Like it's written. But then the work has to go in, And it reminds me of how I used to write. I still write, but I'm in kind of a dry spell. Not writer's block, just like a dry creek bed. It's strange. But what I'm saying about that is when I'm writing, I want to do a separate video about this so it's like concise but here it goes. I have this thing that I believe. And keep in mind, there's always a primer layer of me thinking I'm deluding myself. But it gets to a point where it's like, who gives a shit anymore if I'm deluding myself? If I have something I believe in and it keeps me going. And it's not even hurting anybody. And it's not hurting many bodies. Anyway, okay, let's put it this way. Disclaimer, I might be completely crazy. But here's how I feel. I have a superpower, and it's really small, but it is that I can get the end result before I do something. So I can get the emotion, the epicness, the struggle. I feel like I can get all of that before I put the work in. So mainly with writing. So I feel like I can be like, I'll have a glimpse. I'll make up like 4 words, and then I'll come up with like a backstory. It feels like a flash, where I'm almost downloading the backstory, but then it's not quite there. It's like gray code. It's like a shortcut, and it feels like whoa, that was epic. But I didn't put in the damn work yet. Now I have some stories that are complete, usually short ones. I'm working on longer ones. If I can keep kicking around the dirt long enough, I will have books probably. But 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 it's really strange because I feel like I almost get the reward before I do the work. And I feel like that's almost like a mirror of the freaking internet culture. Like I'm almost done with the internet in whole because of how much it lets you just click and get something without putting the work in. I find it damaging to my real life. And I say this with conviction, knowing there's always an inkling of I don't have it that bad yet. Like I'm not chronically online. I could go a week without the internet, without like withdrawing, I believe. I'd actually feel better probably. But one of the biggest things in my life is throwing baby out with the bathwater. Isn't that what they say? One of my biggest problems is getting very binary with things where it's like the internet, there's so much that sucks, so I throw the whole thing out. Okay? That's not how I grew up, not mechanically, because I was a salvagist. I would take crap out of the garbage that people threw away and fix it, you know? So I don't have overall mentality of, I'm not the disposable mentality, but when it comes to morals, I got into dichotomic and I'm not trying to do that, or I am. I don't know at this point. I'm getting exhausted. Oh, in general, right now I feel energetic enough to keep going. I guess what you're seeing is a person in their mind. And I'm trying to make that a comfortable place, you know, like a cat does with the thing. I'm trying to knead the dough. I'm trying to make a nest in here. And honestly, most days I think I can do it. But I'm going through like a cleanse. Like I'm trying to get rid of a lot of objects. If you want cool stuff, hit me up. I'm keeping all my music making stuff, most of my electronics, but a lot of my projects have to go. I just burnt a bunch of wood scraps. That felt great. Separate video on that. I still like my other channel. I still don't tell my other channel about this channel. YouTube is feeling kind of dead too. It's just so overstimulating. But there's certain people and certain things I hold to a deep regard, and it reminds me not to throw the whole thing out just because of the rest of it, you know? And since this is a whole spill it all out kind of video, we can go into imagination. My imagination, I feel, is so powerful at times, sometimes not. Especially when somebody's trying to, this sounds crazy with what I've done with my life so far, but if somebody tries to explain something mechanical, I usually don't get it. Because I guess the way they put it, they don't even put it bad. I need my information the way I need the information. And a lot of times when it comes in, I organize it as it comes in. So I almost need them to say it in my order, you know? But imagination. So here's another selfish, stupid sounding thing. And I know it. And there's a couple of reasons I know it, but I'm going to say it anyway. So that's another disclaimer. So I only get 0 to 1 comments, but if you're the 0 to 1 comment and you're like, that's so, then yeah, I already know that. But I feel like at times my imagination is so strong that it's quite possible I imagined you. And everyone. And everything. But that could probably and plausibly and possibly just be because I always kind of feel like my imagination is the filter between my inputs and my mind. So it's quite possible it just feels like a person imagined everything in life because it gone through the tube. So if you're talking about the tube and how powerful the tube is, then Of course, you think it's almighty because everything you see goes through the tube, so you could misconstrue it with the tube birthing those things, the birth canal. But I think that's all I want to say right now. Otherwise, I'll start grabbing fruit off the tree that like wasn't even ripe. But I want to add another, as if this wasn't human enough. I want to add another layer of humanness and just be like, actually, you know what? I don't know. We can't talk about overwhelm right now. We can't talk about becoming human. Today's going to be a good day. I'm going to post this, I think. Then I'm going to take a visit to the bathroom, and then I'm going to suit up and do some home improvement stuff, which in turn turns to life improvement stuff, or do both. Oh, and I got to get my truck battery on the charger, like ASAP. So I hope whoever the heck is watching this isn't, I hope they're more comforted than triggered, and I hope that the 3 people that see this found it funny or pleasant or relatable, instead of like looking at me and being like, oh, this kid has it bad. Not that I don't think I give off that I have it bad, but like there is something I do have that's bad. But a lot of people have it. It's that over analyzing, that overthinking, that over simplifying in a way too. Over everything. But yeah, I gotta figure out what I'm calling it. Maybe the tube. Bye.